Yeah, I know it said 7:03, but I'm feeling an inclination to get moving.
It's
Are
7:03.
7:03 just turned. So just
Magic.
everyone, hey, how are you? Thanks so much for joining us tonight. It's an exciting time of year as we roll into the Thanksgiving season and the fun and hope. I think attend things like student conferences, which we'll see next Monday and Tuesday. But right now, I just really excited to talk to you about this project that we've been embarked on for. Gosh, I don't even know when to pinpoint it. In some respects, it started 2, 3 years ago. In others, it's been an ongoing thing, even antedating my arrival here at Browning in 2016. So just really excited to talk to you about that. But before we do, I want to introduce my friend and my colleague, Director of Enrollment, Assistant Head of School, Janet Lien. Janet, how you doing tonight?
Great. Thank you so much, John. And thank you, families, for joining us today. I know folks have questions, and we've gotten a great range of questions, and we try to segment them and try to hit on as many of your questions as possible, and really try to speak to both the broad and the particular as best we can. But I joined a couple of hard hat tours, and it's just really, really exciting to see what's going on East 64th Street, and we can't wait to share it with you. But for tonight, I think you might have to take our word for it. Yeah, but thank you, John. Very happy
Yeah,
to be here.
yeah.
So let me
Like,
just kick things off. Want me to kick things off with the first
oh, that'd be
question here?
great. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, all right, great. So John, one of the questions that I think is on everybody's mind is just how things are going. I think we tried to post pictures whenever we are able to get over to the new building to show how construction is going. Will you just speak to a quick timeline update for our families as to how that's all going for us?
Yeah, Jen, sure. That's a great question because the question I probably get most in individual conversations is understandably related to timeline, and I take it as a sign of enthusiasm. So we're on schedule to have our construction completed by late spring of next year of 2025, which is actually a terrific achievement. When we started this, I'm comparatively new to New York, right? I've been here for 9 years, but I'm not a native. I've never built anything, and everyone told me to expect that this was going to take. It's going to take forever, that we should expect setbacks and delays, and we've seen none of that. And I think that's down to some fantastic construction management, some fantastic support from our architects and our building management. It's been really, really good. And so by late spring, the construction should be done. We'll be in the building fully by the fall, by September of 2025, and that is going to, just so we're really clear, that's going to put grades 9 and 12 on East 64th Street, right? And K through 8 will remain here behind the red doors on East 62nd. And we're assured that we're going to be in the fall. Look, if I can't promise anything, but if we can get into the new space earlier in the springtime for like selecting events to use a community commons space or to use the gymnasium or something like that, we're going to do our best. That's not up to us in some respects. That's up to the city. But it's something that makes us really excited. So yeah, the timeline is going really, really well, better than we had reason to expect, and I'm delighted by that. Yeah.
Mhm. I'll confess I was skeptical, but I am now a believer. But
Yeah.
let's go to the very beginning, and speak to the rationale for why we've undertaken this massive and massively important project for Browning. Why did we decide we needed a new building for the upper school, and why now? What does this do for Browning as a whole, as a K-12 school?
Yeah, it's another good question, and I'd be curious. You've been here longer than I have, Jan. I'd be curious what your sense or your thought about this was. But I was lucky enough to get this job in the winter of 2015 to start in the summer of 2016, and even before I arrived in New York, folks associated with Browning, particularly the board, were reaching out to me to talk about the need for more space, right? Around the idea of needed, facilities more commensurate with our boys' abilities and interests. And that was 9 years ago. And that's only gone in one direction in terms of our boys' abilities and interests, and frankly, their size. The most obvious reason that we're doing this is that we're running out of space. Our boys have literally gotten larger, right? Whether it's nutrition or exercise, we have these enormous humans tromping around our spot, and there are more of them, right? Which I don't regard as a problem. I regard that as a real opportunity. That Browning is attractive enough that more kids want to come here, and so we're in a place where we still have room enough, right? But we're rapidly getting to a point where the lack of space is not going to be just aesthetically difficult. it's going to start to interfere with our primary tasks, which are always going to be around teaching and learning. We've seen our boys' interests grow, right, and particularly in the lower and middle schools around things like robotics and computer science and engineering. And so we find ourselves really competing for shared spaces in a way that we hadn't before. And it gets a little nuts and boltsy, Janet, but that makes scheduling a real nightmare. And it involves the boys in more transitions and shuttling between rooms than's ideal. So there's a real obvious spatial reason, and kind of hard upon that, or there's some programming reasons too. What we're able to do with this building. And I do need to say, the building we occupy here is beautiful. It's beautifully appointed. We wouldn't be able to do half the things if folks hadn't had the vision, some 15 years ago to renovate this building. All right, we stand on the shoulders of those folks, but we're looking for more opportunities for our boys to get together collectively, to have larger spaces for them to gather in ways which are both formal and unstructured, right? Because it's so healthy and it's so important to their development and their camaraderie and their sense of being a part of something larger than themselves. And so we're going to be able to design kind of dedicated spaces for that, and for things like learning support and faculty student collaboration in the new building, right? Which is going to be tremendous. But it's also going to liberate space here, right? It'll be de-densified in really important ways. And so the things that we're going to be able to support on East 64th Street, we're going to be better able to support here too. The kind of sense of coming together, finding time for individual attention and conversation with teachers. When we get over to East 64th Street, our programming is going to be enhanced by some of the facilities, right? We're just going to be able to better provide resources in disciplines, particularly like the lab sciences. We're going to be able to do more for older artists and musicians in terms of what we could offer them spatially. And computer science and engineering, which has just really taken off for us over the past decade. There's going to be space which, again, is more commensurate with the needs and the abilities and the interests of older learners, right? And lastly, and maybe the most obvious thing, and I mean to save it for last, but just we're going to have athletic facilities which are scaled to the needs of all our teams and all our athletes. I think I need to commend the athletic department and the PE department for how creative they've been with the space we have here. But there's going to be something important for us culturally, programmatically, about having a full-size gymnasium and a full-size gymnasium that we can control, that doesn't belong to someone else. And lastly, and open with this, there's the idea that we're going to be able to schedule with fewer transitions, and I imagine we'll talk about schedule a little bit more along the way, Jenna. But the thing that I really want to focus most on, and I don't want to get caught in the weeds, and I apologize if I have, but like there are decided, absent a better term, kind of like spiritual reasons for doing this, right? Like, because when a boy who's been with us since kindergarten, when he gets to the end of middle school, we're sometimes hearing that the space here, however much they may love it, it's begun to feel small to him. All right, this isn't every boy, but look, if you're here over the course of 9 years, you start to notice that folks are having the same kind of conversations. They're longing for something a little bit more, and I think there's something inspiring, there's something enlivening about having a space that's scaled to your size and your interests, and that you can call your own. Right, the idea that Browning feels like a 13-year journey where you're continuing to grow and occupying a different space is going to be kind of symbolic of that growth. It feels like to the guys, it feels like leveling up, right? To borrow the parlance of video games. And I've had a chance to have lunch with some upper school guys and talk about how they're feeling about it. They're just super pumped by the idea that there's going to be a space which has been designed with them in mind, right? And so if we're able to do that in East 64th Street, and we're able to do even more here because of the space that's been allowed us and some renovations we're going to be able to pursue, we really feel like we're going to be getting the best of both worlds as a K through 12 school, right? We're going to work as hard as we possibly can to ensure what's so vital about Browning, which is a kind of cultural and curricular continuity, right? The kind of integrity that you need to see K through 12, a sense that we're all part of one school. But we're now going to be able to offer spaces which are more differentiated to the specific needs of our K through 8 learners and our 9 through 12 learners. And Jen, I know I've gone on for a while, but if I could just say, like, if folks don't leave this with any other idea, I can't think of a more exciting time to be at Browning, right? Like, we need to do this. You asked the question, why now? We need to do this now, so we can feel confident in telling our boys, that we're trying to give them the best opportunities for learning and growing that our community's resources will allow. Folks have worked so hard and sacrificed so much, and I very much include our families in that, as well as our professionals. we feel like there's this next step that we can take. This is such a wonderful and ambitious and I think crucial time for Browning. Right? We have the chance. We have these talented boys. We have this committed faculty, and I think we have this opportunity for creative programming put into the kind of facilities that our boys deserve. Right? There's nothing that's more important in a school than the relationships between students and teachers. And I think you and I both believe that very strongly. But giving them those students and those teachers the chance to enact this process of relating in facilities, which again are commensurate to their needs and abilities, it's just a thrilling thing, right? It's hard to overstate how long we've been on this search. It's hard to overstate what kind of good we think it's going to offer our boys. And it's not just about a building, right? It's about giving all Browning boys, whatever their ages, more and better opportunities to flourish for as long as we're allowed to have them here.
Mm.
I don't know. I hope I haven't
Mm.
lost it because I know that was
Oh
really, really
no,
long.
no,
Because
no.
that's
I think so many
it's
things
something,
I
yeah.
yeah, it's you're so right. There's not, this is really such an exciting time to be at Browning. And when I say it, I feel like, I'm saying, I'm telling, not showing, but we've hoped very soon to be able to show and not tell, right? And you asked from my perspective, for having been here for a little while. I think you've addressed this, but quite frankly, East 62nd Street was never meant to house this many boys. And even through the last renovation that we undertook to get our schoolhouse to its current form, we did not intend for enrollment to be this high. I feel really blessed, and I feel very strongly that what we're doing at our school is important. I feel very honored that families see that and that they want their sons to join us. And so I think this opportunity, this having this building, does present a great opportunity for us, and space, as we know, is really hard to find. And when this came up, it's not it was the right space at the right time, right? So it's one of those things that just happened. I'll tell a quick funny story about the athletic facility, and I want folks to know that this is not the central reason why we've undertaken this project, like getting a gym. But I think folks know that we've had to raise the highest level of the building in order to accommodate a gym at the top of the building. And on a hard hat tour with the eighth graders, and we wanted to show the eighth graders because we wanted them to get excited about joining us in the upper school next year. The boys walked in and were like, why is it so high? And even I was like, huh, are the hoops supposed to be that high? And it's, and people were like, yeah, this is actually what regulation size
Yeah,
means.
yeah.
Um, but it was just, it was a funny little interaction, and it just, I think for scale, right? That it just brings that to the fore, that little story there.
Yeah.
And I love what you said there about the spiritual reasons, right? Like sometimes the message can get lost when we focus only on the real estate, the physical. And you talked about the philosophical reasons why we've made this choice. It's so much more than getting a shiny new building. That bit is exciting, but it's also very much about increasing the quality of experiences for the boys and for families that we serve.
That's right.
Ultimately, it's about continuing to refine the vehicles through which we're delivering our mission and program. And so I don't want that point to get lost whenever we
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about the physical space either.
Yeah.
So let's talk about program. What are some of
Sure.
the immediate improvements upper school families might be able to see in our program?
Yeah, it's another good question. And I thank everybody who submitted these questions. They're really good. We think about what's going to happen in 24, or excuse me, 25, 26 in the upper school. I mean, I think what's most exciting, and this might sound wonky, but the immediate changes to scheduling that we're going to be able to
Mhm.
see, right? That might seem less glamorous than, say, like having a new science class built around like a multi-million-dollar electron microscope, right? But the reality is that scheduling enables programming, right? And the more freedom a schedule permits, the deeper and the more intentional our programming can be. And so one of the things that John Wilson, our new head of upper school, has really been talking about in his collaboration with his colleagues in the upper school is we're planning a schedule. We're going to be able to increase the frequency of class meetings in core academic courses from 3 to 4 times a week. Right. And that's really important in terms of a certain type of learning. Our boys get plenty of seat time in our current setup. I don't want anyone to think that we're at a deficit, right? And if you see our upper school boys and what they're able to do, they're not at a deficit. But increasing the frequency of meeting, we as educationists know it's going to help their learning, especially in disciplines where things like regular practice and automaticity are just vital to building and retaining a knowledge base. So just the idea that we're going to get our boys in core classes more frequently is really important to us. I think it's going to be a significant programmatic change. We're also going to have more space, and we talked about space, and space and program are kind of yoked around this notion of schedule, like but for a wider range of things that we've had to scramble for, despite the talents of our boys. Things around like musical and drama offerings. I need to say that when we started out to do this, like I wanted to make sure we had a gymnasium, want to make sure we had a theater, I want to make sure that we had a dining hall, right? And we're only able to get two of those three, and so we're not going to be able to have a theater as such because, unfortunately, I've discovered, maybe others knew it, is that real estate goes really fast,
Mhm.
and we had to respect some architectural constraints. And we had to meet the fullness of our classroom needs, frankly, to make sure that we had enough classrooms for boys. So we couldn't claim as much space as a theater would have needed. But we are going to have much better community and performance spaces, such as the community commons, which I hope everybody will get a chance to see. It's kind of like amphitheatrical stairwell, which can seat some hundred boys to watch performances. We're going to have an improved and enlarged music room. We have this wonderful Wilson room here, but it's competed over by boys 5 through 18. We're going to have something dedicated for older boys and their musicianship skills. And even our gymnasium, right? Which, it's not just going to be for Sparta. It's going to be equipped with improved audiovisual than we're able to offer here. It'll be able to seat several hundred guests for performances. And so you think about, getting a musical performance, getting a dramatic performance in there. It's going to be different than what we're able to do here. I think programmatically, it's kind of a general principle. I think as a boy ages up, our schedule is shaping up that he's going to have more opportunity for choice, more opportunity for elective, more opportunity for intellectual learning depth. Right, he's going to be able to go deeper with his coursework just because of the flexibility a new schedule will offer. Something's important that maybe it's only important to us inside the building, but it's always a concern when you're trying to protect the integrity of the academic day. There's going to be reduced conflict between end of the day academics and interscholastic athletic competitions, right? Sometimes athletes need to leave school early. The school where I was previously, like I taught a team where like, I saw them 2 out of every 5 days because 3 days a week they were playing a game elsewhere, and I taught them last period, and I never ever saw them. We're gonna schedule so that's not an issue for our boys, and we've worked really hard on that already. But this is a way of kind of completing that phenomenon. I'll say every Tuesday morning the a cappella group practices here in my office, and I have to go for an hour-long walk, which I
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, I've seen you.
But getting the Aqua Panthers their own space, that's going to be good for everybody, right? And I think just kind of generally, students are going to have, greater access to community spaces and classrooms, and we won't have to stuff boys into spaces, and that might not be the proper term, but just there's going to be more fluidity of movement. Guys will be able to gather informally. Because there aren't going to be two other divisions utilizing those same spaces and just kind of feeling the space being more your own. That's not program per se, but that's a feel that I think is really, really important. And these are some of the things that excite me. So I think our boys deserve it. And I think it's a great story to be able to tell. I don't know. Have you given any thought to this, Janet? I mean,
Oh,
about
yeah,
what
yeah.
we might be able to do?
100%. And again, I think what you said about space and program being yoked together is important to talk about. And if I could just go back to the theater piece, I was
Yeah.
also very much a part of the team that was like, we need a theater, we need a theater, we need a theater. The real estate went really quickly because we also had to do some backwards calculations about, how many classrooms do we need? If, max enrollment, we expect to be this number. So then after that, real estate went really fast. In full honesty, if a theater would only be used so many times in a week, right? So, but we know that we will be using classroom spaces, the labs, the performance art spaces with greater frequency. So I think it was a choice that we had to make. And I think it was a wise one given the constraints that we had. But we do have performance spaces and there are places that we can continue to adapt to it because it is important for us to deliver that balanced programming to the boys and make sure that the space does cultivate that. One thing to note too is the way the classrooms have been designed lends a pedagogical purpose. There's a pedagogical purpose to the way that we've designed the classrooms, right? So when we were designing, we're talking about our wish list. I was like, let's have flexible classroom spaces, places where we can have Socratic discussions, but we can also remove a wall and have a larger group in there. So we have these amazing classrooms that they're big. And when families get to see it, I can't wait to show it to you. And there's just going to be so much more ability for teachers to get creative and with what they can do within each class. I should share that we have a rather large transition working group that's working through all the various pieces. And we are still working on it, but I believe, and you mentioned this, John Wilson, the upper school faculty, or with conversation about the schedule, it's remarkable and exciting to me that just fixing the schedule is going to allow us to deepen existing programs such as our certificates of distinctions offerings, the fine and performing arts offerings, the computer science and engineering offerings. But it also gives us space and time to balance those offerings. And we've been so far really creative how to fit in terms of how we can fit everything where we are right now. But this greater flexibility just cannot be understated. And this goes for our lower and middle school division as well. I mean, the
Yeah.
question was really
Yeah.
about upper school programming, but and we'll touch on that in a little bit. But I also think that we can't forget that the lower school and the middle school will stand to benefit from this as well. So,
Yeah.
John, a
Thank you.
question, yeah,
That's
anything,
awesome. These are great
yeah.
points, and I really appreciate you making them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you. So a question I get a lot from prospective families is actually about the expansion plan itself. How will the
Yeah.
school grow because of this new building, and what will the ultimate class size be in middle and upper school?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. I mean, I know I keep saying that, but they're all really, really good. One
Mhm.
of the reasons I came to Browning, and I was lucky enough to come to Browning, was just the idea that I believe this is a place where relationships could be lived in the way that a good boys' education requires, right? Like we talk a lot, Janet, about like knowing and loving and challenging our boys and things having to come in that order. And I just think that's really, really difficult if you're at a school with 700, 800, 900, 1,000 kids. And that's not to derogate any of our peer schools. They're doing fantastic work. But for us, for our model, the idea of knowing a boy, truly knowing him, is essential to what we're trying to do. And so any growth that we're going to see has got to be kind of strategically thought out. It's got to be gradual. And I think it's important to emphasize that the growth that we're seeing, which has actually already been happening over the past couple of years, it's been the outcome of a lot of strategic thinking by our enrollment office, led by you and Kelly West in particular, but also assisted by other administrators here in the building. Some board committees have been really, really helpful. And so our plan, to just get very specific about it, and our plan is now in its third year of operation. It's meant to add about 15 boys to each grade six class. All right, and that expansion plan means that the upper school will start to grow in the 26-27 school year, right? So every year we're kind of stair-stepping 15 more boys into place. And this is part of the rationale as well as of having our fifth grade be part of the lower school, right? And so what this will give us when all said and done is between 45 and 50 boys in each middle and upper school grade from grade 6 through 12, right? And it'll be about a 7-year process that'll take. And you know, with this kind of gradual student growth, right, we've also been hiring gradually, right, because we're trying to be mindful of the impact on culture that can result from school expansion, particularly if it's begun too quickly or done too quickly. I want to be really clear that our student-teacher ratio isn't going to change, right? And we're also going to, as we adopt a new facility to go with this great facility, we're going to be bringing on the kind of full complement of needed professional staff, like security, facility and mechanical management and maintenance, administrative support, nursing, right? Those things are going to be guaranteed, right? We're going to be duplicating what we have here behind the red doors uptown a little bit. So there's not going to be a lack of safety. There's not going to be a lack of healthcare. And so on. And just, I want to keep insisting that this is incremental growth because I think that's very much in keeping with our culture and our community. I've always been pleased that Browning is not a place that's sclerotic. It's a place that moves, but it evolves and it does so in a very deliberate way, right?
Mhm.
It's not a place of rapid fits and starts. And I think that our enrollment growth needs to mimic that. And, the growth is important to us. There can be some programmatic advantages that offers us, but we won't allow it to be distorting, right? We will, by the time we get to what I think it's like 2030, we'll max out at between 515 and 525 boys, right? And that's few enough that I can still know every boy by name, right? It's about a 20% increase of kids over the course of 7 years. But what we need to hold with that, Jen, and make sure everybody keeps in mind, is that we're seeing a 20% increase in kids, but a 50% increase in square footage and footprint, right? And just what that's going to enable in terms of a boy's experience, in terms of kind of liberating the creativity of all our fantastic teachers. It just feels really good. 515, 525 boys, we are still going to be Browning, right? We're not going to be this sort of gargantuan enterprise. We're going to be a place where every boy is known and loved and challenged, but in a way where I think there's going to be some scalability that's going to allow us a lot of interesting opportunities. I mean, I mean, this you and I have had this conversation for a couple of years now, and I do need to credit Janet and the admissions team for frankly making this happen, right? For telling the Browning story in a way that's so attractive that folks want to continue to join us. But has that been kind of your sensibility of how it's worked? Are things kind of
Yeah.
going according to plan by your
Yeah,
judgment?
yeah, 100%. And the number I've had to make sure our tour guides are the boys are also telling the right numbers that will be about 20% more in terms of the student body, but we're gaining, double the square footage of space, right? So that's really the ratio we want people to think about. And even in the past couple of years, as we've added new students to the sixth grade, we've learned lessons in terms of how to be mindful of how we help new families and new boys transition. So this has actually been very, very helpful to be doing this in the meantime. And I'm not sure that families know this, but when we hire new faculty, well, first of all, in the past couple of years, a good majority of the new hires have been new positions. So that's part of the hiring plan.
Right.
And again, so that we don't, like shock the system culture wise. But our new faculty all take a professional learning group class, I guess, and that meets once a month. We have a series of professional learning groups, but teaching and learning with boys is the one that we require all new faculty and staff to take. They are also paired with a learning buddy who is a returning faculty member, which means returning faculty members can be taking this class twice, three times, four times if you're a great buddy and then we tap you a lot. But that class is really essential to kind of helping our colleagues, right, embody the way in which we want to be working with our boys and just learn about the best practices for teaching and learning with boys. So there is intentionality there, and I don't think it's something we talk about enough. And so I hope that that's new information for families to gain. Something very concrete that families would love to know is how the building was financed, and what financial impacts there may be on the school going forward, such as on tuition. Will tuition be impacted? I think that's a really reasonable question, and one that I think takes courage to ask. And I'm so glad someone did, so that we can address it just head on.
Yeah, no, that's right. Well, look, as a Browning parent myself, it's something I wanted to know, right? I like to joke that we're financing this through lottery tickets, but that's not, that. Let me, if I could take the last part of your question first, Jen.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just want to be crystal clear that the building on East 64th Street and its associated costs, they're not going to influence tuition increases, right? Our tuition, frankly, like tuition almost at every independent school throughout the country, is driven almost exclusively by salary and healthcare costs for our fantastic faculty and staff. Our tuition does not go to debt service on capital projects. So any tuition adjustments that we may see in coming years, and I don't know what they are, it's not going to be to do with this new facility, right? And I appreciate giving the chance to ask that, because it's a reasonable assumption or a reasonable intuition in some respects, right? Well, there must be some sort of affiliation between tuition and this capital project, but there actually isn't, because we're using a combination of equity and proceeds of bonds that we've been loaned from the city through the city, and to finance the development and the construction and the equipping and also frankly the furnishing of the East 64th Street facility. All right, so we have this loan, right, and we're gonna reduce our loan obligation. Initially, we're doing it by we're drawing down on our endowment, which is pretty substantial. But we're going to draw down on that in increments, and it's great to have a strong endowment because it allows for a lot of programmatic flexibility that we presently enjoy. And so, if we're going to draw on our endowment, we need to replenish it, and so we're trying to replenish our endowment. Through the philanthropy, principally of our capital campaign. And I guess here I should probably note that just like, look, I recognize that we've always leaned on the generosity and the trust of our families in all kinds of ways. First and foremost, by allowing us to work with our awesome sons, but also materially. Like our families are Brownie families are incredibly supportive in all kinds of ways, but especially materially. And so we're really fortunate to have a terrifically giving community, and this is why things like our capital campaign and our annual fund, which is actually going to comprise 30% of campaign dollars when all is said and done. It's just why the campaign and the annual fund just they remain really important to us. We know that it's an annual ask, and I hope it doesn't dull with repetition because this is the sort of thing that it enables for our boys, which is really, really important. I do need also to shout out our business office and our board because we've really, I came here as a history and English teacher, right? And I hadn't had an econ class since college, right? And a finance class since college. So I'm not the reason that we've had a lot of smart financing and investments over the past decade, but our board in particular absolutely is. There's some real financial wizardry around that, a real, frankly, conservative temperament, which has really, really helped us. We came into this project carrying no debt, right, through the kind of smart fiscal management and stewardship of our tuition and philanthropic dollars. I think sometimes folks ask, why we didn't buy the place because we have a 99-year lease on the space. It's because the landlord didn't want to sell, right? But we have been given the right of first refusal if the owner does wish to sell. And I'm trying to take good care of myself, but I don't know if I'm going to make it through all 99 years of the lease. But the idea that we're going to be able to have the first chance to purchase this is pretty exciting. And just so it doesn't get lost in the wash, this project will not impact tuition in coming years. They're just not affiliated things. Thank you, Jen, for giving me the chance to
Yeah.
talk about that because it is important. It is important. I mean, I think
Yes.
sometimes institutions and financing can seem really, really opaque. But I think there's real clarity about the fact that this is going up through loans and philanthropy, not through our tuition dollars.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope families feel reassured that, year to year, your tuition dollars are going directly to the boys' experiences that year. And thank you for that reassurance, John. Let's talk about change management. This is this is
Glamour.
this is something that the leadership team has spent a lot of time on. We collectively took a course together on change management, and all the aspects of that, and paired that, contrasted that with each of our temperaments and how, we might each lead our school through change. We recognize that there's great change coming ahead, and sometimes that can be dysregulating. Can you
Yeah.
speak to how we are approaching the transition, both for the boys who are moving into the new building and the boys in K to 8 who will remain at East 62nd?
Yeah, it's really, really good. Like you mentioned, they would just say like change management is dysregulating. I think it was somebody who said it's
Sometimes
temperament.
it's
Yeah,
exciting,
well, look,
but
I mean, folks on the call know, but like I have a turkey sandwich every day for lunch, right? Like in some respects, I am not down with change, and so I can appreciate that it can be hard. I mean, maybe the first place to start is with the folks who I think are kind of untrammeled in their excitement of what this means, and as our upper school students, we've been
Mhm.
trying to acclimate them to the idea that they're going to be in this kind of new, exciting space. We don't want them to disregard the space they're in now. This building has been fantastic to us, and I don't want to say anything derogatory about it. But also getting the boys kind of juiced for what's going to come, right? And because construction is ongoing, we've not been able to have kind of like a wholesale touring of the facilities for all of our boys. I know some of the tour guides have gotten over, and when they got back, they're just really, really impressed with what they saw. A couple of them are asking me like, Dr. Botti, did you know that they had this? Do you know that we're going to have this community commons? Do you know that we're going to have a full-size gym? I was like, yes, guys. I was there when it was designed, but it was just it was super cool just to see, how
Yeah.
psyched they were, right? Like we sometimes think about teenagers or teenage boys as adopting this kind of cool pose of sort of like nihilistic ennui, right? Like there's none of that. There's just this kind of just real enthusiasm, right? And kind of harnessing that enthusiasm, trying to anticipate what it's going to look like in the new space. So as I mentioned earlier, our upper school leadership is in the process of redesigning the schedule here at our upper school schedule to better take advantage of new rooms and traffic flows and facilities. We're trying to be as creative as possible. I know that my previous job, I did a lot of research on school start times and the importance of sleep, and that's challenging because we have to affiliate with a lot of different institutions. But that's the kind of thing that we want to be looking at, right? It's a complicated process, right? This process of transition, and it's an important process. And you mentioned the transition working group. I've been so impressed with just how thoughtful and deliberate our colleagues are being around all of it, whether it's schedule or how we're going to utilize space. And um, I don't know, like folks here may have their own experience with creating new facilities or redesigning something. They're just all these decisions, right? Like practical and logistical and spatial, these decisions that we're in the process of making because we want to ensure. You mentioned, this space and the new space. We're trying to ensure as much continuity and tradition and feel as we can, right? So thinking about like I never get tired, Janet, of talking about the morning handshake and how important it is to me, how important I hope it is to our guys, right? But it'll sound like a line, but it's almost always the best part of my day, right? So think about like, how are we going to schedule the morning handshake, right? Because I got to grab all those hands. I want to grab all those hands. So how are we going to make that happen, right? So that the handshake is as much a part of East 64th Street as it is here. We think about we're going to have faculty who are now occupying two different spaces. So where and when and how are we're going to hold faculty meetings, right? How can we best utilize the gathering spaces that we'll now have here, and that we'll also have in the new spot, right? I think about like our parents association, right, which has just been wonderful, just the energy and creativity of our PA. Like we don't want to lose that. So how can we protect the connectedness of the PA so it doesn't feel like a K through 8 PA and a 9 through 12 PA. And then even just like little things, right? Like how are we gonna decorate over there? Like what kind of decor are we gonna make sure that we bring from here to there? Like kind of what awards, what symbols, what images, what student artwork. It's really detail oriented, and frankly, it's a lot more arduous, Janet, than I imagined it would be. But it's
Yeah.
given me so much confidence that we have such a conscientious and patient and collaborative group of folks that are engaged in this transition plan, and it's going to make a real difference, right? Like folks, the most thoroughgoing concern that I've always seen is just the idea that we've got to maintain as much continuity, as much of a kind of one Browning narrative story to go through. Look, there's inevitably going to be like kind of a punch list items, unanticipated consequences, but I have to believe that the hard work that we're doing now is going to allow us to really enjoy and celebrate both our new space and a kind of like re-understood space here. And that's something that we're really, really looking forward to. And again, if we can get in over there in the springtime to do some things, that'd be fantastic if the city lets us do us. But like we're going to open our school doors in September 2025, and I hope that we have just 9 through 12 boys just amped to be in that new space and kind of make it their own, and K through 8 boys super psyched with what they have here, and also anticipating the opportunity to go to essentially a new cathedral, a
Mm,
new temple of learning on
mm,
East 64th Street. So yeah,
mm.
it's just I didn't know I could be so excited about this kind of detailed planning, this kind of
Yeah.
logistical work. I just think it's
Yeah.
gonna benefit us in so many ways. I mean, what's your experience been with it, Jen? I mean, I
Well,
have to like you've been as deep in the weeds as anyone, and just
mhm.
I mean, it's I know you. I think I'm impressed with you. But let me say for all the folks here watching, just I'm so grateful for your leadership, and I'm also curious as
Mhm.
to what you're seeing out of it and how it's making
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I mean, you and I definitely came into the change management training, occupying different quadrants of the change management wheel. But the way you were just talking, I think you're a secretly change agent. Like you're a change agent in secret, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And
Yeah.
I think part of managing change, in spite of some of these very exciting opportunities, is just managing some of the grief of being in two spaces. And we've been therefore like really proactively. Eric Ogden calls it the Muppet Whisper campaign. And that's just all it is just like opening channels of communication with our colleagues. We're not hiding anything. We're thinking, we're feeling people out and getting a sense of where folks are. We're planting seeds. We're initiating conversations in the hopes that like folks see that we're working really hard to try to take into account everything that they're all feeling. And just what you talked about, in terms of even the decor, right? We want visual continuity between two buildings. When the upper schoolers go to the new building, we want them to still feel like they're a part of Browning, not this, like when I moved, John, I for 3 months I felt like I had my stuff in someone else's house. So I don't want the boys to feel that way, right? And so
Yeah.
we're even thinking about those details. And we talked about, identifying those rituals and traditions that are important to our student and faculty bodies. So let's talk about some of these traditions.
Sure.
What will happen to some of the traditional activities between the upper school students and younger ones, such as that the opening day assembly, which is it's one of my favorite moments of the whole
Yeah.
school year, when the seniors walk the first graders over for opening assembly, or even the holiday program, Thanksgiving assembly, things of that nature.
Yeah, no, I mean, so thanks. I mean, 'cause I think this gives me a chance to amplify a point that I hope I made last time. It's just like it's going to be really important for us to hold on to traditions and rituals because those are the things which ground our story, right? Like our sense of what it means to be at Browning. So it's to preserving interactions, particularly between upper school students and younger students. We're going to have to be more intentional about putting them
Mhm.
together. It's going to be more difficult for them to have the kind of organic encounters that they presently have, right? Like, you walk by the library once a week, you're going to see an upper school student playing chess with a younger boy, right? And that's just kind of happenstance, and it's beautiful. We're not going to have that as available, so we've got to think our way to how we can make that happen in a way that it feels authentic, even if it's something that we're kind of nudging. We will maintain. You mentioned the opening day assembly at Christ Church. We'll maintain that because it is an important ritual. Also, because I want all of our boys to feel a sense of continuity in the early days of next year. I want to give as much reassurance that we are still Browning. Um, Also, want to say like the fire code isn't going to allow us to put all 450 of our boys into the upper school gym next year. So we need to hold on to the Christ Church space and that assembly in particular, I think it's important to point out, like the process of having 12th graders walk the first graders down, that's actually something that we invented,
Yeah.
right, in the past decade. So there are always ways to kind of revivify culture, to claim ritual and rite that make this place feel as important as it is. So we'll keep having our winter concert. We're going to keep having our all school field day, and for a time that had broken into divisional field days. We see great virtue in keeping that in all school enterprise. We'll still have our grade 8 class visits. Janet works works like a Spartan to plan these grade 8 class visits to upper school classes. We're still going to do that, and I think it's going to be extra cool next year because eighth graders are going to make a 12-minute walk to the new space to kind of not only explore new classes but explore new classrooms next year. And you can also, I think we can anticipate and these things will become more clear in the fullness of time, but you can anticipate ventures back and forth, between the buildings. Like I see the middle school student council going to meet with their upper school counterparts across the way, or the upper school student council getting real nostalgic to come back here and make common cause with their middle school brethren. You can see like our upper school athletes coming to work here in like the lower school intramural program. I can see us having kind of like school spirit days in the new gymnasium. So we migrate all the lower and middle school boys over for a period or two just to share in something special. And I think that's fantastic. But I also don't want to lose. I mean, because you had mentioned what is this going to do for the K through 8 space here? And I think we don't want to lose that this is an opportunity for us to promote even more leadership. And I think we get
Yeah.
great leadership, but even more leadership from our middle school students because they're not going to be the oldest guys here, right? They're going to be the oldest fellows in this K through 8 space. And that's really important to us as well. So I think there's incredible opportunity, but yeah, I also want to make sure that I'm not losing what's most important here, right? As we talk about the opportunities in the specific spaces that, like we're a tight-knit community. That's why I'm here. I hope that's why the folks who are listening are here. And that doesn't develop simply because we're all in the same building, right? It's built again. I'm going to keep going back to this. It's built on the primacy of relationships. It's built on our professional insistence that boys are known and loved before they're successfully challenged. So our culture, and I hope everybody here feels this, and Jen, and I suspect you do, our culture, it really isn't about a building, right? It's about people, right? And the caliber and the purpose of the people that we have working and living here, that's not going to change. And so I have not just every hope, but every belief that there's going to be a thoroughgoing culture, despite the fact that we're now a two-campus institution. Does that make sense
Mhm.
to you?
Hmm.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Oh,
Sorry,
did I
got
choke you
excited.
up, Jen?
I got
Sorry.
excited there for a second because something that I really want to amplify is this. This is so exciting, I think, for our middle school boys because I think they're going to have to take on this, like leadership role in the building. I was just thinking about it today and talking about it with Kelly. And, we're gonna be asking middle school boys to help us out with the admission, tours for middle school applicants. And I think that's a really great opportunity to tap into their passion and excitement and enthusiasm for Browning. And then just along the way, we're going to be claiming all kinds of new rituals. I think yeah, I mean, there's an opportunity here for new imagination to take place in terms of how we can continue to foster that kind of continuity between buildings. Folks also want to know what faculty and staff are most looking forward to moving into a new building.
Oh gosh, that's a great question. Well, since my office is going to be here, I think they're probably
Mm.
looking forward to that a lot. Just getting to
Yeah.
me. You know, I'll let others judge that, but I think even more so than our boys, our faculty and staff are attuned to the potential benefits of the new building and what that'll allow, frankly, in the continuing building. And while I'm talking about this, and we've talked about transition, I do want to compliment all our academic departments just on how thoughtful they've been in assessing our boys' needs and our programmatic opportunities as they've weighed possibilities. Like, you could see how this might be kind of like a land grab, right? Like, hey, we're going to have a new building. Like, what do you need? And people just
Yeah.
decide they're going to spend like the Pentagon in a crazy year. But folks aren't acting like money's no object. It's been really, really intentional in terms of people like requesting resources or wanting about different programmatic opportunities. And it just reminds me just how well our teachers know our boys, right? And that's a really, really good feeling. But beyond that, I mean, kind of specifically, I think what we're going to see is that teachers find that there's almost something to enhance every kind of learning that we want to explore. Again, there's sort of kind of dedicated room for musical performances and more expanded dramatic performance. And I know we've talked about that a little bit, but when we first talked about it, Jen, I think you mentioned that's really important in terms of balance, and I think that's so right. I mean, I'm of the view that in a boys' school in particular, the space for artistic expression, whether it's visual, whether it's musical, whether it's dramatic, is really, really important for boys to kind of understand and discover and express the fullness of themselves. So that's super cool. And you pair that with the fact that we're going to have these kind of upper school worthy facilities athletically, right? Which will allow our guys, who are kind of team athletes, but also more individual physical fitness. We can have these like these kind of art. I don't think we've talked about the sort of like, the kind of maker space opportunities that we're going to have. Like right now, we have our tech lab, which is great, but it's competed for by 430 boys, right? And we're going to have just more room and things which are kind of scaled and opportunities for older learners and older boys. We're going to have these really, really spacious, biology and chemistry and physics labs that again are meant for boys that are full grown, full size, right? Sometimes in our facilities now, it's safe, but our boys are kind of elbow to elbow, and that constrains the creativity and the pedagogy of some really talented teachers. And so the chance to kind of liberate the boys and the folks who are facilitating their learning is really, really exciting. Our library here is wonderful. It's actually award winning for its design. But the opportunity to have an upper school library that really is meant to meet the needs of older learners and their kind of research and inquiry needs. That's super great. And just knowing what Mira Louis, who's done such wonderful things in this space, what she's gonna be able to do across the way, that just guns me up. We'll have special kind of dedicated seminar rooms, which are designed, you mentioned earlier how the design is meant to promote a certain type of pedagogy. We'll have them, designed to promote sort of like kind of dialogical class meetings, that sort of conversation-based learning. And you mentioned these kind of double-sized classrooms, right? Which will be along 64th Street on the window side of things, the big, arched windows. It's just going to be super cool. You have a classroom which can fit almost 50 boys. We're going to be able to get an entire grade level in one classroom if we need to. Not because we're going to have a class of 50, 50 kids, but, for meetings and things like that, it's just, or breaking into smaller groups. It's super exciting. And frankly, look, it's always fun to have new furniture, to have like new working tools, to have new decor, right? The kind of the new toys of it all is great. And I think faculty, you know, I think frankly, they're hopeful about the possibility to have classrooms that they don't have to share as much, right? As a teacher myself, I know it can be a real drag to have to, rush into a classroom, set up all your stuff, get your lesson, your activities together, do that for 45 minutes, 60 minutes, and then tear off and do it again somewhere else. Not everybody's going to be able to have their own classroom. The sense that there's going to be some sort of permanence, I think is really reassuring to talented professionals. We've tried to create more offices, more huddle spaces for our adults. And there's just gonna be more space, right? And I think everybody's gonna be able to enjoy that in a way that'll be kind of immediately arresting. And
Hmm.
I think that's fantastic. And so,
Hmm.
I think faculty who are going to be migrating are really, really excited. I hope we'll get a chance to talk about what we might be able to do for faculty who are remaining, because we don't want them to feel like that the left behinds are somehow less valued.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think
What are you
that
hearing,
was,
Janet? What are
yeah,
you hearing?
same as you. And I mean, as you were talking about like, being able to linger in your room, right? I mean, I just remember washing beakers while another teacher was trying to teach teach in in the same science lab that we were sharing, right? And or a Latin class happening in a science lab, right? And it's just yeah, this is gonna be good for everyone K to 12. And I have to say that we've also been really actively engaging faculty who will be remaining. And John, you and I are among many who will be getting a lot of steps in during the day. But I think the transition working group that's working on what's going to happen at East 62nd Street, there's like so much creativity going on, and I think folks are excited about how we can like spread the K to 12 boys across the building. And we've been trying to figure out, well, adult presence, on like each level, like how are we going to make sure that it all gets spread out? And those are all really interesting and fun conversations. I just remember, when we come into our transition working group, people come up with an idea that they were been thinking about. I'm like, oh, that's gonna be amazing. The boys are gonna love that, and again, I mean, I'm not here to overpromise and underdeliver, but I want to give folks a taste as to, some of there's some really fun stuff happening in terms of what we're
Yeah.
trying to plan. We got a very particular question about whether we'd be able to rent the upper school building out for other groups, and
Oh,
or will internal groups like the PA be able to host meetings there?
oh yeah. No, it's a really
Particular.
it's a thoughtful thing and kind of strategically minded. I appreciate that. Look, I think just in general, I want to say we want to get this facility as much work and as much welcome as we can. It's not meant to be a museum, right? It's meant to be a lived-in space, which where I hope everyone will feel at home. And so something like the Parents Association, for example, like we certainly want the PA to have meeting there. We want as many kind of cross-divisional clubs, right? Like, for example, our green team, we were sort of joking about the efficacy of our green team at the beginning of this call, but just if they continue to be a grade 6 through 12 or 5 through 12 or K through 12 enterprise, being able to have meetings in both spots, being able to have community gatherings that pertain across our population. Yeah, we absolutely want to do that. I need to say that Andrew West and Mike Cohn and some of the folks in the athletic department, they're already trying to organize an approach to scheduling, which will allow middle school teams and athletes to access East 64th Street with regularity. In terms of renting it out, the terms of our lease right now don't permit us to rent our facility to groups outside of the Browning community for profit, right? Because we have taken on loans, and the folks didn't give us the loans to allow us to kind of run a business, as it were, a for-profit business. But eventually, our loan obligation will relent, and I could see a time where we could make use of that space and let others enjoy our facility, and also kind of show off the fact that we have this great thing going. And if interesting families think that's cool, I think that's better for Browning too. Yeah. So we're going to do as much as we can for folks within our community, and when we're allowed, we're going to open it as strategically as we can to folks
Mhm.
outside our community. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so now let's go back to talking about East 62nd Street. The new building's really exciting.
Yeah.
And whenever I speak about it, I'm also mindful to discuss the possibilities and plans we have for our current building. Since really great things can happen here too. So what can families and students expect and anticipate here? And then you want to give folks a little glimpse.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question because it's it's easy to kind of get lost in the glamour and the glitz and the shiny and the new.
Yeah.
I think what'll happen here behind the red doors is going to be I don't want to say a mirror image of what happens in East 64th Street, but all the same themes obtain, Janet. I think that
Yep.
we're gonna have more space here. We're going to have better, smoother scheduling here. We're going to have an opportunity to enhance some of these facilities to better serve a K through 8 population, right? I both Eric Algan and Ophelia Ma are leading efforts to restructure the schedules for the lower school and the middle school respectively because they want to be able to take advantage of the de-densified building, right? I've talked about how like older boys have had to compete for space. Well, the younger boys are competing for that same space, right? And the fact that more rooms will be available, more room will be available is really important. There's going to be less
Mm.
competition for, particularly for like the high traffic areas, things like our library, or the Wilson room, which is right over here, the tech lab, both of our gymnasia, the upper gymnasium, karate gym. There's going to be less competition for those things, and that's going to allow us more programmatic flexibility. I think we do have a plan to relocate our physical education staff to be closer to our dedicated athletic spaces, which we think is just really, really healthy in terms of coaching and supervision and keeping boys safe and secure. I think we're going to have an opportunity to explore a way not only to reassign our lockers, but maybe even reconfigure them. We're going to have fewer boys to accommodate, and so there's a chance that we might be able to size the lockers up so to get boys even more comfortable in getting all the materials into one space. I know that's something that Ophelia Ma and the learning specialists are going to be looking into, and we'll see what we can deliver in that respect. We're also we're gonna upgrade some spaces that are here. And all of these things I think we can complete during the summer, with perhaps one exception. We'll our computer science and engineering lab, the tech lab as we call it, but it's really a CSE lab. It's gonna undergo some redesign. Melody Ting, Dr. Ting has just been really, really smart, shocker, and really creative about what she's seen in that. So it's gonna have better furniture. It's gonna have cleaner arrangements, and it's gonna have technology which is suited to K through 8 guys.
Mhm.
We're gonna be able to refit one of our art rooms on our fourth floor. It's going to be able to create a kind of curiosity zone, is what Eric Ogden, I think, has been helpfully calling it for our lower school guys.
Yeah.
And it's still going to allow for the exploration of art, but we'll also be able to take a look at music and technology in there as well. So it's not a tech room, it's not a music room. It's a curiosity, creativity space for boys in K through 5. Our library, just as we're kind of making a library opportunity for our upper school, it's going to be spatially reorganized to better accommodate our K through 8 fellows. And we have this weight and fitness room on the fourth floor, and we're in the process of refitting that to make it a kind of indoor movement space that's especially suited to middle school students. I need to say, and this is the one project that I think may carry over into the fall because it looks like there's going to be a lot of construction and a lot of expenditure. But if it comes to pass the way we're sort of envisioning it, and Ophelia Ma deserves so much of the credit, along with Kenny Marshall, our director of facilities, it could be really, really cool. Just in terms of like some like rock climbing walls, maybe some like things that you hang from and swing. It'll be safe, but it'll
They're
be
gonna love it.
yeah, it'd be really,
Pull
really
it off.
exciting.
Yeah.
We're able to upgrade some of our equipment in the remaining art room and also in our science laboratories. I really appreciate the vision of the science department on that. And there'll be some cosmetic work on the kindergarten play deck, which is going to get use from a bunch of lower school grades. So it's not this exactly the same as a brand new school, but it's a substantial upgrade. And it's not an insignificant allocation of resources that we're putting into it. Again, we want everyone to feel like they're in a special space.
Mm.
And this building has been so good to us for so long, and we need that to remain the case, and not to lose sight of the fact that 60% of our boys are still going to be here in this building, and they deserve the best that we can give them too. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And again, our transition working group is hard at work. I, like you, have just been so impressed by the vision and creativity in our colleagues as they reimagine our existing space for students in K-8, as well as, everything else that it requires thinking about for the upper school building. Well, John, I can only reiterate that this is, again, like there's no other way to say it. This is truly an exciting time to be at Browning. I think folks Folks know that I've been at Browning now. I've been fortunate enough to be at Browning for a while, and I've just watched us go from strength to strength. I'm so proud to be able to help propel our school forward and honored to be a part of this journey. We're all here because we believe in the work, right? To foster deep learning and self-understanding and a sense of personal responsibility to the world at large, in the boys that are in our care. And I'm not just saying this because you're my boss, but thank you for leading all of our efforts here, John. If I may say so, your work really has been, to me, a true example of courageous leadership. And I must say too to our students and to our families, to thank you for your trust and your support, because we simply couldn't do this really, really exciting stuff without your support.
Yeah. Well, Jen, first of all, this is so kind of you to say, but I hope my boys were listening.
I'll tell them tomorrow.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. But your point about our families is so well made, right? Like
Mhm.
it's not only do we think we're able to do this because of the families that we have and the support that they give us, but we so want to do it because of the
Mhm.
caliber of the families that we have and the boys that we're lucky enough to work. I mean, I, I think the best part about Browning is, and the type of education that we offer, is what it deepens, right? This is kind of how I came here. It's what I think just about the type of education we give it deepens your relationship with ideas. It deepens your relationship with the world. It deepens your relationship with other people. It deepens your relationship with emotions. It deepens your
Mhm.
relationship with aspirations and ideals. And
Mhm.
all these things, I think, are enhanced by what we're trying to do here. Like we're not building a new building to be cool. We're not building a new building because we're trying to join some sort of facilities arms race. We're doing it because it's an emanation of the best of ourselves. It's going to
Mhm.
allow us to flourish in a way that, gosh, we're right on the edge of just kind of bursting forth. I'm so proud of the school we are, and I'm so excited with the school that I think we can still become. And I'm really honored to be a part of it. I'm really really grateful that everyone would spend time with us tonight. I know we spilled the banks. We said that we'd go an hour, and I've gone an hour and four, and I apologize for that because folks' time is valuable. But I hope you felt it was worth at least some of your time, and just thank you for all you do and all that you give to our place and our community. It means a ton. I wish you all a fantastic Friday, tomorrow, a great weekend, fantastic conferences, and then a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. And we really look forward to catching you, if not next week, in December as we bring our calendar year to an end. Thanks for all your support, Janet. Thank you so much.
Thank
I'll see you
you.
tomorrow.
Thanks,
All right. Take
everybody.
care,
Have a
everybody.
great evening.
Bye bye.
Bye.